Our next presenter, I'm very pleased to introduce Jessica Guffey, fabulous Sustainable Food Center. If you don't know who they are, you're going to learn about them. She's the Grow Local co-director. And as the director at Sustainable Food Center, she helps groups start and sustain school and community gardens in the Austin area. I think that's a great intro for the information she's about to present us. Welcome her.
Thank you. Really excited to be here. Unfortunately, was not here for the morning, and sounds like there were some really exciting workshops that I would like to learn more about. But as Lisa mentioned, my name is Jess Guffey. I work at Sustainable Food Center and am the co-director of our Grow Local program. So we focus on helping folks with school gardens and also community gardens. We also do a lot of education around basic gardening and garden leadership. And we have a project called Spread the Harvest, which is open to home gardeners, school and community gardeners. And it's a way for people who want to grow their own food to get access to resources for growing their own food. I'll talk about it a little bit more later. And it's also a way that we ask people to track how much they're growing and how much they're sharing with others. And so that's a way that we can see really that the movement of growing your own food and school gardens has really been growing. We just see that evidenced in the work that we do, especially over the last couple of years. As far as talking a little more about Sustainable Food Center, we're a local nonprofit, and our mission is to support and strengthen the local food system here in Austin. So I'm coming from the Grow Local program, which is just one of the things that we do. And actually, Andrew, who's going to be talking next, is going to go into more detail about Sustainable Food Center. So I'm going to leave that for him. And I'm just going to mostly focus on school gardens today. How does this guy? Okay. So I actually see a lot of familiar faces in here, so I know there's a number of people who are already representing really awesome school gardens in town. But what I wanted to start off with for folks that may not be as familiar with, why am I here at a nutrition conference talking about school gardens, I wanted to talk a little bit about what is the purpose of school gardens, why have we been hearing so much about them lately, and what does that have to do with nutrition efforts. So there I could do a whole presentation on the benefits of school gardens. There are a variety of benefits from them. There have been a lot of studies, and I have, if any of you want to contact me afterwards and you want any more supporting evidence to any of this, because I won't be able to go into a whole lot of detail, I have a lot of additional materials. So there have been a lot of studies over the last several years trying to see, okay, what is the benefit of school gardens, what are they actually linked to? Because as you might imagine, school administrators and that kind of thing, when they're approached about, oh, we want to have a school garden, they would want to know, well, how is it going to help the school? What are the effects going to be? So one of the big ones is that a school garden actually provides a way to have a hands-on classroom. And so there's, some of the lessons that come to mind that you might be able to do in a school garden come from the science curricula. But actually, we've found that there's lessons that you can do in a school garden setting that go across lots of disciplines. So we have English teachers doing things out there like journaling. There's art teachers that take their students out there. You can do math lessons. You can do social studies lessons. Basically, almost any kind of any discipline or any topic, you could take a student out, or students out into the school garden and use it in a more hands-on way. And it just is a great way to introduce a different kind of learning style that can help kids learn it in a different way. And so as part of that, having school gardens and doing lessons out there can increase positive attitudes towards school and actually even increase test scores. So that's, of course, the bottom line, especially for a lot of administrators. And there are studies to show that doing lessons out in a school garden can help kids learn more and then even demonstrate this on achievement tests. Some other things are that having school gardens can increase environmental awareness. They can also build responsibility, respect, and cooperation. So there's a lot of projects that you do out in a school garden where kids really have to work together to make it successful. And so they learn a lot of really great social skills from interacting in that environment. And then, of course, some of the ones that tie in the best to what the focus is today is that school gardens have been shown to increase the interest in trying new fruits and vegetables, and also increase healthy eating preferences. So there's time and time again, I mean, I've seen it firsthand, I know a lot of you have as well, is that there's a lot of foods like broccoli or radishes, that kind of thing, that if kids see it in a grocery store or if just kind of see it on their table, they just may not have an interest in giving that a try. But if you go through this whole process over several months where they've planted the seed and they've watered it and they've measured the growth of it and charted it and really taken care of it, by the time that there is some kind of a fruit or a vegetable to harvest, they're pretty curious to at least give it a bite, give it a try, you know, after all that months of suspense. So you really do see kids that have more of a willingness to try different things, so try new different kinds of fruits and vegetables. And if you think about it, doing that at an early age really opens up their palate and can set them up for a lifetime of healthier eating habits. And then another thing too, just with the school garden, is that it gets kids outside and active, and you know, of course, that ties into nutrition and wellness as well, is that physical activity is down and there's not always a lot of time for that during the day. So by having a school garden that could either be used in school or after school is another way to get kids outside. They're moving around. Gardening is considered a moderate form of exercise. And just that, that exposure to being outside might help them be interested and willing to be outside some more. So this is just a sampling of the benefits. Okay, this is the next several slides are basically from a workshop that is about a 4-hour half-day workshop that we do about starting a school garden and sustaining it. So this is really just kind of quick and dirty. And like I said, I have lots more detail on this. But if you do want to start a school garden at your school, the basic first step that we recommend is figuring out what the purpose of the garden is going to be. So there's a lot of different kinds of school gardens. There's ones that are primarily about being a teaching garden, which is some of what I've really been talking about. There's other ones that might be open to the community and might have a community component where there's parents that have a space to grow their own food or other community members. There's other ones that really focus on trying to grow food to donate to a food pantry or sell at a farmer's market. So there's really a variety of reasons that you might want to have a school garden. And what's really important to do from the start is to decide what is the reason that your group wants to have a school garden. So the why. Another really important question is who is going to take care of the garden? So it's great to have this, really a lot of enthusiasm right at the start. And the reality of it is there's a lot of fun that comes in having a school garden project, but there's also, as you might imagine, certain tasks along the way that need to be maintained and kept up with. So as you're sort of convening your team at the beginning to carry out this project, it's an important early question to kind of figure out some different roles for who's going to help take care of this project. Where will the garden be located? Just really key question. There's different factors that can help a garden be more successful, making sure it's located somewhere that it gets enough sunlight, close to a water source, in a location that's accessible to the school so that people can see it and get out there very easily. So these are all really important considerations. What type of garden you want. So really just kind of the layout of it, how big, how many beds. We always recommend starting pretty small so that you can start and have it be manageable and successful, and then you can always expand it. When do you want to start gardening? So that leads you into kind of thinking about the planning that you need to do. Let's say you want to start a garden, you want to be able to plant this coming February or March. Well, then it's a matter of backing that plan out and figuring out what you need to do to make that happen. And then the last one, how will your garden grow, is more of a, not growing in the plants growing sense, but how is it going to be expanded in the future? How is it going to be sustained with funding and continued support? So these are all good questions to think about from the start. And then I mentioned a garden team. So what I'm talking about there is just reaching out far and wide from the very beginning, not only just to get support and permission for doing the garden, but also to just bring lots of people in the loop and invite them to participate, because really the more people you have involved, the easier it's going to be on everyone. Sometimes there's situations where there's just one teacher or staff member that's really gung-ho, and that's great, but after a while they may get burned out or they may leave, and then there's no sustaining way for the garden to keep going. So one way that can be addressed is that from the very start, really reaching out to everyone and anyone. So this includes lots of different kinds of people on campus, as well as reaching out into the community, finding those master gardeners and other people in town who have different talents or time available that can help with the garden. So I talked a little bit about this already, but really important to choose a successful site. I know with Austin Independent School District, the facilities department is actually very supportive of school gardens and interested in helping advise on finding a good location. So I would recommend at any school or school district that you're in is contacting that maintenance facilities department, because they really know the sites of the schools well, and they'll be able to tell you, you know, if a certain location is going to be, they've seen it throughout the year and how it changes, and they'll know whether it's going to be a successful site. So now we're assuming you have your team, you have your site, everything's great, you've got it built. What do you actually do with it? There's a lot of great curricula out there that provide activities that you can use to, like I said, teach lessons in the garden across many different disciplines. So Sustainable Food Center has a couple different resources. There's a picture of it up there, but we have something called the School Farm Guide, which is a great guide because it provides a lot more detail on what I've been talking about as far as getting your garden set up, getting that support rallied. And it also goes through a whole lot of different lessons that you can teach in the garden. And this guide, since it was written by Sustainable Food Center, it's synced up to Central Texas growing season. So it's synced up to what you need to do at specific times during the year, what you need to plant, and what kind of lessons you can do at different times during the year. And it's also synced up to the TAHK's guidelines for science for 4th and 5th grades. We also have, and I should say that the activities in this guide are geared mostly towards elementary school level, although they can definitely be modified for older kids. But we also have a guide called the Sprouting Healthy Kids Guide. There's a website up there because that one is available online. You can download it. The School Farm is something that we sell for $15, but the Sprouting Healthy Kids you can get online. And that's geared more towards the middle school level and has a whole variety of lessons and activities for using the garden. So in addition to some of our resources, I think a lot of you probably already know about Junior Master Gardener, which is they have several different curricula for using a school garden. And that's based out of Texas AgriLife Extension, so you can find that online or you can find it at different places throughout town. And they have a lot of ones that, like they specifically have a curricula that's about nutrition and different focuses, so I recommend that. The other great thing about that one, along with Sustainable Food Centers, is that, again, they're created in Central Texas, so they're very appropriate to Texas. And now you can find a lot of curricula online, free, and that's all definitely great. You just may have to modify it sometimes, like if it's coming from Vermont, to be very different what you need to plant when and what makes sense when. So one really good site is Kids Gardening, and you can find a lot of different activities on there. It's a national site. And then aside from curricula, I just threw up there taking field trips, because one of the things about school gardens is that it really starts to open kids' minds to the food system and where their food comes from, which goes beyond the school garden. So we've got a lot of great urban farms and community gardens and farm markets that can also be tied into having a school garden program. These are just sort of a sprinkling of activities that you could use. for interacting with the school garden. We have some great ones on mulching, entomology, seed saving. I know a lot of kids get really pumped up about cooking, so that's something that ties in real well with the school garden because you can grow some food in the school garden and then take it inside and try out some different recipes with it. As far as resources, I know how I'm doing on time. There's lots of grants out there for school gardens. Because I know one of the questions people have a lot is about funding. It's not always something where a school has funding for a school garden. But there's lots of grants out there. I know there's a really great Whole Kids grant that Nona will probably touch on. If you go to that kids gardening site, you can find a lot of grant listings there. And then we've also compiled a whole bunch into a document if you want to email me about that. There's also a site in Austin called Austin School Garden Network. And there's all sorts of different resources there about funding and about places in town where you can get resources and about curricula. So those are some places to start. And then lastly, I just want to talk a little bit more about how it is that Sustainable Food Center helps school gardens. So we provide some amount of technical support. People call us and ask questions about how to get started, and we provide that consultation. We can do some site visits and some assistance with planning the garden. Another, I don't have this up here for some reason, but another big thing that we do is our classes. So this, I mentioned, is a half-day class on sustaining a school garden. So that's a big way that we provide that information for folks. We do serve as an umbrella nonprofit for grants and can provide letters of support. We help match volunteers up with schools either for work days, and then we also try to recruit school garden volunteers, which are folks that we match to a school that can help out for a longer period of time. That's also a great help with that extra watering and weeding. And then Spread the Harvest, I talked about a little bit before. It's that program where we provide free seeds, seedlings, and compost. And in exchange, we ask gardeners to track their harvest, and we encourage them to share any extra harvest with others. And so we get those funded through the City of Austin and Travis County. And like I said, just the participation in that has been exploding over the last couple of years. And it's really inspiring to see how many people are getting into gardening and how much food is shared with others. So that is extremely abbreviated version, but my contact information's up there. I do have some different handouts with me today on funding and curricula. So if you want to see me afterwards out there, I'll have all that stuff. So thank you.
Thank you, Jess. I think you said something about it being inspiring, and that certainly sums it up as far as kids really understanding where the food is coming from, which helps in that whole conversation of food, real food, junk food, and so on that we had earlier this morning. Dots connected. Thank you so much.